Hi, this is Paul Lancaster from Sage One, and today I'm joined with Tony Robinson, OBE. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Your Lordship. It's wonderful to see you and hear from you. Great.
Tony, I'm a big fan of your writing and the things that you talk about on Twitter. But for anyone that isn't familiar with who you are and what you do you just want to give a little introduction?
Yeah, well, I'm a rocker. I'm an enterprise rocker, and I founded Enterprise Rockers with the wonderful Tina Bowden in January 2012, and the whole aim of that is to make life better for micro-enterprise owners all around the world, not just in the UK, but our pure aim is a massive, massive self-help community to make life better for micro-enterprise owners everywhere. And so that's who I am. I've done a lot of things as well, including I worked for corporates and actually became a managing director of a huge American multinational corporate. But I started my own business in 1986, which is what I've always wanted to do. And I've also tried quite hard over the years, especially since 1995, when I founded an organization called SVEDI, and which later founded the Institute for Enterprise and Entrepreneurs as well. I've tried really hard over the years to try and improve the quality of enterprise support to pre-start and startups, particularly because it's a tragedy really, and so unnecessary, the sheer mortality rate of startups. We know that with the right advice, with the right training, with the right mentoring and counselling, but certainly with the right advice and with test trading as well, you can actually get over 85% of startups still trading after 3 years, which is twice twice as much as will happen if they don't get that advice, if they don't get that mentoring from people that have got the t-shirt, if they don't do the test trading. And that's the tragedy. I mean, that just shouldn't happen. So I've tried really hard to do that for many years. And but the greatest thing I've ever done is put all my money and all Tina Bowden's money into Enterprise Rockers as a self-help community, so that once somebody has started trading, that they can get involved in an informal, they don't even have to give us any registration details, it's not a membership thing, they don't need to pay any money, but they're involved in an informal community that is just there to try and help them keep going. And so I'm really proud of that, and that's what I love doing really, is seeing if before I you know kick the bucket that I can maybe do something about this survival rate of micro business owners, because they certainly deserve it. As you know, 96% of all businesses are micro enterprises, and half in the UK alone, 500,000 are starting up each year, not because of what the government say about what fantastic entrepreneurs they are, but because there are no other viable ways of them actually earning a living. And Rockers wants them to keep going, survive, and like my friend Tim Campbell, who won the first apprenticeship, The Apprentice, said, we want them to help them make ends meet, and that's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to make them the next Bransons or the next Sugars or the next Jacqueline Girls, who I'm a massive fan of. We're actually just trying to help them make ends meet, because they should survive. They're risking their time and money. And that's it. That's me. Long explanation, and I'll be really short in the answers from that.
Well, Tony, I think it's really important what you do, actually, because one of the things I like the most about what you do is the independence. You're quite outspoken with the things that you say on Twitter and the things that you write about in your articles and your blogs, and I really like that. I think it's important to have an independent voice, someone that obviously genuinely cares about startups, and you know what you're talking about. And every time I read things that you write, it opens my eyes and my mind a bit more to see things from a different angle. So I do think it's really good what you do. So I hope you continue doing it for a very long time.
Well, I really appreciate that, Paul. Thank you very much. We do need lots of encouragement, really, because sometimes it's a sometimes it is a little bit hard, especially seeing, we're putting all our own money in it to do it. It's just funded by Tina and I, and huge amounts of free volunteer effort from we've got 26 head roadies at the moment, and about 20, they're experts in different things, like Claire Rayner is the indie retail expert, Peter Harrington is the enterprise gaming expert. We've got all experts in different areas, and they give up huge amounts of time looking after our LinkedIn groups and our Facebook group. But we really do need people like you say, yeah, keep on going, because sometimes it's a bit hard, because we've obviously chosen not to be funded by government or to be funded by large corporates, if you like, but do it all ourselves. So yeah, really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's true. I mean, it's so yeah, keep doing it. So why do you think we're talking about the high mortality rates of businesses? Why do you think that is? Because it is a tragedy, isn't it? When at the beginning, when people are thinking about starting a business, or they do actually take the plunge, they're obviously very excited. They're full of optimism and hope for the future. So what goes wrong? Why do you think that the failure rates are so high in this country?
Well, the biggest problem is that they haven't got the right help. Nothing prepares you for starting and running a business. So you can be an executive, you can be a top leader. I mean, I did postgraduate diplomas in business, and I was, highly qualified in various things. But when I started my business with fantastic Claire Francis in 1986, we quickly realized that neither of us knew the first thing really about what it takes to start and run your own business. And it's just so important that you get right advice at that time, and then in those really tricky 18 months, I mean, most people won't earn more than £12,000 within the first 18 months. That's just fact. Just look at the statistics, if you like. And whatever the business plan says, that is the reality of what will happen. And you need help through all that time. And I know, because I'm not a business advisor myself, but I've met some absolutely fantastic business advisors. And if somebody is actually aligned with some of these really great business advisors and people that are running a business that can say, hey, don't waste your money on that, you just don't need it yet, or you certainly don't need a car, for status reasons, you don't need insurance policy, you've got to meet the legislation but do it at the lowest possible cost that you can, etc. It's a lot of very basic, simple advice. Your business plan is helpful for having a route as where you're going, but frankly, we've never seen in 20 years a business plan pan out the way that a startup person is doing. And you've got to have more than one stream of income. We advise people to test trade and start while they're still in a job and they've got other income and various things. So what goes wrong? Well, what happens, unfortunately, there is a business opportunities industry. There is a business opportunities industry that it is in their interest that you do start a business with them in some kind of way. And unfortunately, we've both been involved in the enterprise agency movement, and I'm very proud still to be a director of an enterprise agency. But I would actually include the enterprise agencies in that business opportunity industry. A bit like franchisors, a bit like the major direct selling companies in the UK, a bit like massive finance companies that want independent financial advisors. They are all people that actually want you to start up with them. An enterprise agency wants you to start up with them because the government are giving you the money to help you start up. And unfortunately, it's a decision that goes in terms of the people that are actually selling you the opportunity. They're actually only interested in you having a business plan that ticks all the boxes for what they are meant to do. So, for example, if you take the thing that I'm bitterly upset about at the moment, as you've got picked up from my blogs and various things. I'm like just so upset about startup loans, because basically the average, we advise everybody to bootstrap, don't borrow, because I've always believed in the Branson kind of theory that actually enterprise is actually making something out of nothing. So, I mean, I borrowed from my mother, I must admit, to start up my business. But find ways of doing it within your own means, if you like, because it won't work out exactly as you expect it to or think it does. And at the beginning is not the right time to borrow, in our view, and the statistics prove it. And here we have government selling startup loans. Now, the average loan that was being given out to micro-enterprise owners and people starting up before startup loans was under £2,000. Very similar, you're familiar with Prince's Trust, if you like. That's quite a nice amount, really. It's not too big. Remembering most people are not going to earn more than £12,000 in the first 18 months. The average startup loan at the moment is over £5,500 because of the startup loan schemes. Why? Well, the providers get 15–16% of the startup loan amount for selling startup loans and providing the support to help the business. It is only the same has been run with, there's been something like 6 initiatives over the 20-odd years I've been involved in this that are all the same in one kind of way. And the first thing that they do is they tick a box saying, have they got a robust business plan? And they make sure that they have a robust business plan. Whereas you and I know that what should actually be happening in the first few months is while you've got some income coming in, is test trading, dipping your foot in the water, seeing if you can get some customers, trying, if you've got products, try it on a market stall, try it on eBay, try it on Amazon, try it on Etsy. You know, there's lots of ways that you need to just test and find customers to find out what market there is, and then you can be a lot clearer about what the figure's going. And the best advisors I know, let's take the cliched example of somebody wants to start a window cleaning business. Like, it's what looks like a non-techie business. The best business advisors I know will take the potential window cleaner from street to street to street to street to identify where their potential customers are as the very first thing. Now, that sounds so obvious, but it often doesn't happen when the business opportunity industry, which, as I say, include government-funded providers in this, are actually trying to get you to start a business in the way they want, so that it ticks the boxes for them, and they get the income out of you in the end. So that's where it goes wrong. And that's why ours is an alternative. Does that make sense? That's why the Enterprise Rockers is such an alternative, because it's saying it's free to join. You don't need to give us any registration details, but you will be surrounded by people that have got the T-shirt. So ask them questions on. I mean, have you looked at our Facebook or LinkedIn groups or at all or anything? I mean, you'll see some questions that you might think are absolutely staggering in the. What can I call it? It's not naivety, it's desperation, if you like. The majority of people that are rockers are successful because, in our view, because they've taken the risk to start up their own business. But I would say 70% of them are finding it at any one point in time really scary. Now, they'll be super confident on the outside with all their customers and various things, but they need a supportive community. They don't need people, they don't need volunteer mentors, for example, that will be given with a startup loan that might be a retired bank manager. They just do not need that, Paul. And you know, we have to support people. You know, we want people to go the enterprise way. It's a fantastic way of earning a living. And well, whichever, you know, big companies have been in meltdown for the last 15 years in terms of jobs. So any audience I'm speaking to, there's a good chance that 50% of them at one point during their career will have to start a business in order to earn a living. They have to freelance, be self-employed or whatever. So it's just like tremendously important. And I look at New Zealand, Highlands and Islands of Scotland, places like Malta. There are many places that we can look at whereby the survival rates are much, much higher, and they're just, you know, they're just fantastic with micro enterprise. They understand enterprise, and they've gone the enterprise way. And we just want to make what's happening it's happened for many years in New Zealand and Canada now. Fantastic stuff. Victoria Lennox, who I know. Have you met Victoria?
I have, yeah. She's a very impressive lady. I met her when they set up NACU.
Great, and
yeah,
there's a perfect example, and Victoria really taught me. And Victoria's not 30 yet, I'm sure, but Victoria kind of taught me. I was senior advisor to the University Entrepreneurs, NACU societies, and she really taught me that what you've got to do is develop an ecosystem, really. And that's what she's done with Startup Canada. I mean, it's right throughout Canada. It's providing all that really good support. And the great thing is, it looks private and social enterprise sector led. It doesn't look government led. Do you know what I mean? It looks in, you know, you used the word independent, didn't you? I think it's got to be independent of the people that have got a vested interest in terms of getting you off benefits and forgotten about, because basically that's everything. Is the big driver in Britain to get people starting up is so that we can forget about them. You know, they're not on a register that says they're underemployed. You know, Tina talks about them being invisible, really. I mean, Tina, my co-founder of the Enterprise Rockers, was on Sky News this weekend. Did you see it?
No, I missed it.
Okay. And it was about how social media is helping the high street. And Tina gets whole towns together. This is the dynamism that she actually does, and they sort it out amongst themselves as retailers, and they have a virtual currency that they call FLOT that they can put on their mobiles and various things, and you know, just using a QR code, scan it, and all. It's absolutely fantastic. And some of them are getting 20–25% of their sales through Facebook, people coming in the shops because of all this kind of stuff. That isn't the advice that is being given by the people that are ticking boxes in the business opportunity industry. So it's about the quality of support that gets you to the survival rate. You can't blame the individual, because I can assure you nothing prepares you for. And if we all knew what a winning business was going to be, we'd all invest in it, wouldn't we? And nobody knows. And there are two ways to go with this. There's the Enterprise Rockers way that says get more people to survive and keep going, and 6% of them will become your growth businesses, and it'll be 6% of a larger amount than will be the case going the government way, which is to try and pick winners.
Mm-hmm.
And
allow
a high mortality rate, you know.
Yeah. Do you think there's too much generic information and advice out there? I kind of feel like there's lots of inspiration. There's lots of events and lots of blogs and articles and people saying anyone can do it. This is great. Starting up a business is easy. But but actually the practicalities of doing it are there's not enough of that. Do you agree?
Did you know David Irwin, who was the first chief executive of the Small Business Service?
I never actually met him, no. He'd left before I joined PNE, but I heard a lot of good things about him. Yeah,
because the original idea of the Small Business Service and the Business Link network, it started off okay, a bit like business gateways in Scotland, which is still working exceptionally well.
Hmm.
And the whole point is that this generic advice is rubbish. It's dangerous, really. It's a bit like putting somebody on a management and leadership course and expecting them to go back to the workplace and in the political environment the workplace is in and enact all of the management leadership. You can't, because big companies are political environments. They're about policy and process, if you like, and you often can't break out of it to implement the things. Well, the same is true of my business, if you like, is unique to me. My personality is incredibly important to my business. I wouldn't have survived without really trying to make my brand, my personality as well, with Claire as well. And so every enterprise is totally different. And the thing David Irwin was really keen on was training up all the advisors initially in BusinessLink, was that they would actually take a holistic approach to each particular enterprise. And so it really is about going with the grain of that enterprise, if you like, and providing the help that's appropriate for that particular enterprise. And that's why a generic volunteer mentor, I think, is so dangerous. I mean, I'm to blame. I put my hand up. I'm absolutely to blame for all of these, I won't swear, volunteer mentors around the UK replacing what were professional business advisors that would take the approach that you're talking about. And the reason I'm to blame is that before the election, I was fortunate enough, I've been on lots of government committees, and I was asked to advise lots of people about, after Doug Richard wrote a report of the review saying BusinessLink isn't very good, what should we do next, etc. And unfortunately, my advice about the importance of people that have got the T-shirt, business owners, helping other business owners in communities, was taken as great. And I'd supported mentoring before over many years of people with the T-shirt supporting others. But the problem was it was taken as a replacement for advisors, for professional advisors. So free volunteer mentors was taken as whereas it was just one part of the overall support. And that's a real problem. I mean, I've always been very strong, and this is where Sage fit in, and large corporates, because don't think that we're always attacking large corporates. One of the Enterprise Rockers things is that we want private sector support to be provided by the private sector. Tina and I want to speak to Sage, to Lloyd's, to all of the big corporates, to talk to their customer-facing staff about how they can support micro-enterprise owners better. Yeah, because we believe that's the important thing. The reason New Zealand and places are just and Malta and various things are far ahead of the UK in survival and growth rates of business is they're not using all this publicly funded second-rate advice. They're using the private sector to do the advice. Yeah, what government can be doing is reducing the cost of doing business. That's why childcare which has just been announced, was one of the things. They can reduce the cost of childcare, they can reduce the cost of energy, they can increase the speed of broadband, they can make, like most countries, have free Wi-Fi available in all public spaces, so that they can reduce the transportation. They can do all those things that will actually help us make some money out of our business. But what they shouldn't be in is in this ticking boxes thing of providing what I think is second quality. And of course, what happens as well, Paul, is the fact that a lot of people, because they don't want to go to the government route, they don't also go to an accountant route as well, because there's, which is sad, really, or a sage advisor or what. They don't go to anybody because they're actually scared of looking a bit silly, or that it'll cost too much, or they'll be exploited, if you like. And that's why we only think that the best thing to do is get them in a community that is supportive, and then one of us can say, well, look, we know somebody that could really help you with your type of business, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's I mean, I'd love to speak to you further about how we can work with you and how we can support businesses better. Because one of the reasons I actually wanted to join Sage was I'd spent about 9 years working in the not-for-profit sector, last 7 at P&E, at a local enterprise agency, and 4 of them at Shell Livewire. So after working somewhere where we were given lots of startup advice and a bit of funding stuff, I wanted to move into the private sector where I thought someone like Sage could help businesses once they were up and running, like to become more sustainable and manage their finances better, because that was always something that was we were told that startups had a real problem with understanding their finances. They didn't know how to run their business properly, and
it's always in the top 3. All the research we've done, and I mean everything I talk about is not my view. I have been lucky enough to be part of millions and millions of pounds worth of research projects, but it's always in the top 3 things that are absolutely vital. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and I've been surprised as well since joining here. I've seen a few bits of research, not some of it done by Sage and others done by other organisations, about how important accountants are to small businesses, because especially when you work accountants and bookkeepers, obviously, because when you work in the startup world, the enterprise world, it's easy to think that you are you are the only ones that are giving business startup advice, but that's not true. A lot of accountants and bookkeepers are very good at obviously the finances and the bookkeeping and the accounts and payroll, but also helping them to stay in the business and develop it further. So I was actually, it has opened my eyes to just how important accountants and bookkeepers are.
And the other thing is, Paul, is that they're 6 times more trusted than the publicly funded business support people. And that's, you know, you'll see a lot of my blogs are just about trust, really, because you can only start to advise somebody if they actually trust in the help that they're being given, and they are. Accountants and bookkeepers are the advisor of choice of micro enterprise owners and startups.
So let's talk a little bit about your book, Freedom from Bosses Forever. Have you got a copy there?
Can you see it?
Excellent. Yes, yeah. So I've read it. I've bought it from Amazon. I bought it as a Kindle book, and I love it. I think it's one of the best and funniest books I've read in a long time. Especially, I've never read anything like it before.
It's true.
So it's brilliant because it's kind of like a, how would you describe it? I was going to say, mad. Yes, it's mad, but it's totally you through and through. It's because you've managed to, through a story, quite a silly, an almost silly story about a lady called Leonora So Cool It Hurts.
Except she only likes to be called So Cool It Hurts now, like female celebrities like Madonna and Beyonce, and they all have single names. Batman,
So this lady called So Cool It Hurts.
So Cool It Hurts.
You've got to. It's a story about her, and through the story she discovers what's right and what's wrong about the business startup world and enterprise world. So through her kind of adventures, you're actually putting across some very important lessons and lots of important advice in a humorous way. So I really like that. Where did you get that idea from?
Well, it started off as a satire, using that character, So Cool It Hurts, to satirize government schemes, really. And people found it were reading them. You know, they were reading beginning to end of the blogs because it made them laugh a bit. But I realised that they were actually remembering what the underlying purpose was underneath it, kind of thing. So I thought, well, maybe I'm onto something. And I must admit, I mean, the truth is with Freedom from Bosses Forever, which you've read, it's taken something like 6 revisions from a book that started off called Stripping for Freedom to actually get it absolutely right and absolutely polished, because unfortunately Stripping for Freedom was so good that everybody thought they didn't get it was a joke. Yeah, they really thought So Cool It Hurts existed, if you like. Like her choco wine diet on Pinterest is like mega popular, and there are lots of people out there that read Stripping for Freedom, if you like, which sold really, really well. Loved it as a book. That, you know, said this So Cool It Hurts. It's just, she's fantastic, you know. And so it's taken a little bit of getting there, but I kind of worked on the basis that I thought lots of people thinking of starting a business are not necessarily going to be people that are used to reading books, if you know what I mean. So can I find a format that they'll enjoy the read for the read's sake, if you like, but they'll just remember maybe 10 or 15 kind of things out of, you know, I think there's something like 86 tips in it, you know, of which about 75 are actually serious tips, useful tips. And if they can remember 10 or 15 of those, that might just stop them starting up a business without doing the right kind of thing. And to be fair, it's really nice that you're a fan of it. And you know, there's a chap called Stefan Topfer, who is one of our head roadies, who is an entrepreneur, runs WinWeb, and he thinks it's one of the best and funniest books he's ever read. But he likes it as well for the simplicity of, you know, I mean, we do say things like, if you can, bootstrap, don't borrow, if you like. That will come out as a piece of advice. But if we'd written it as a boring old textbook, I don't think it would be as memorable as this, you know, funny story about this outrageous fashionista called So Cool It Hurts, who's on her adventures, as you say.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I recommend everyone who's watching this to buy it. Yeah, you've got to read it because it is
only $2.75 as a Kindle book.
Exactly, everyone should buy it, and
Yeah,
and it'll make you laugh, and you will learn a lot from it as well, because it is full of great tips. And I really like the glossary at the end as well. The poking a bit of fun at the corporate gobbledygook, as you call it.
Yeah. There is a kind of serious point there, though, as well, because, as you know, one of the things that we've had a big thing about, and one of the bits that we try and educate corporates at. I'm speaking at the Future of the High Street conference next week, and the title of my speech is Enterprise Get It, and don't call us SMEs or SMEs or whatever, because people don't always realise that the jargon you're using can be absolute bollocks to somebody that doesn't understand this jargon. And one of the saddest things I ever remember was like in the mid to late 90s. Through Svedid, we set up all of these startup training programs. Project Northeast were running them as well, and I used to go around all of these places running these startup training programs to meet these Svedi standards of good practice as well as to what you needed to learn as a startup. And this person said to me, he said, what did you think about it? I said, oh, absolutely fantastic. He said, I've always wanted to understand what all that jargon means. And I thought, oh no. Yeah, but that just shows a lot of trainers and a lot of corporate executives get a buzz out of being fairly hip using jargon that is like, you know, there's an elephant in the room kind of thing that is of absolutely no use at all to the majority of people trying to make ends meet, you know.
Yeah, there's definitely a few buzzwords going on here at Sage sometimes, which make me and some of my colleagues laugh, and we come up with some ridiculous ones ourselves.
Great.
To try and drop in to see if anyone noticed. It's an important point as well about terminology, because I know. Oh, you still there, Tony?
Yeah. Can you go?
Can you still see me?
Yeah, I can see you. I can see you still.
Yeah. Sorry, the video just disappeared for a bit. Yeah. Well, I can see you again.
Good. Great.
So we'll just keep talking.
Yeah.
The word entrepreneur.
Oh yeah.
Is used a lot, and I know that when I was at Shell Livewire, we used to talk about it all the time on the website and in the emails and on the tweets and everything. It was always Shell Livewire is for 16 to 30-year-old entrepreneurs. But since I've left there, I very rarely use that term entrepreneur anymore, because I started to think actually it's not the correct use of that term. An entrepreneur tends to be someone who is a serial business owner or business starter rather than just a business owner.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that word's overdone? Or
I'm really with you. I mean, Tina talks a lot about these words that have been hijacked by corporate and government kind of spin, I suppose, really. Many years ago, I was asked by our education authorities to actually define entrepreneur, and you and I would both be, by my definition, and a definition I thought was useful for entrepreneurship education in schools and colleges and universities, we would be entrepreneurs. But because we've risked our own time and money to create something out of nothing, which is like Branson's, and that's what we've done. So we all should be entrepreneurs by the definition. But it doesn't work like that now. The word has been used to mean these seriously successful business people that, in fact, the word is often used. A friend of mine, a school friend of mine, is called Jim Ratcliffe, and he's the owner of an organisation called INEOS, which is one of the largest chemical. You may remember the Grangemouth stuff and various things, etc. He's one of, I think, the top 20 richest people in Britain, and he'd be called by the press an entrepreneur. But he didn't really start a business, if you like. He was working in a major chemical company, and he's made a career of buying up around the world chemical companies that the biggies are losing money on. And he buys them at a snip, and he asset strips them, and he builds up, and he makes them work. Absolute genius. His team's been with him. He's only been running his own empire, if you like, as one of the richest people in the world and in Britain, a multi-billionaire. But in my view, he's not an entrepreneur, but to the press, to the media and the government, he is an entrepreneur. He's a brilliant manager, and he's got all the skills of an entrepreneur, like deal making and various things like that. But he hasn't really started something from nothing, to actually build it up into something, which is my definition, using your own money. He's used other people's. He's used other people. He hasn't actually taken a personal risk. Yeah, he probably has. He probably takes, but do you know what I mean? The definition of entrepreneur has been hijacked, as Tina calls it, I think, to mean something other. And a lot of celebrities that do nothing else but really make, and it's always been the case, hasn't it? I mean, going back to this business opportunity industry, if you like, that there is, the majority of people make their money by speaking and writing books like Freedom for but they make their money by speaking on it and selling stuff on it and getting appearance fees and various things. Rather than actually starting up a business and building, and they'll be called by the press entrepreneur X and X, who's never really started and run a business, and we would know. So that's why we call people self-employed, well, we call them freelancers, self-employed, and business owners. Those are the three things we call them, because that's me and you, isn't it, really? I think.
Yeah, I used to call it entertainment. Like people who who are
That's great. I like
yeah,
it.
entertainment, because it's just there are a lot of people who are just talking about how amazing they are and how great it is being an entrepreneur and how anyone can do it. But when you look a bit closer, you realise that they haven't actually done all the amazing things that they say they have done, but they're getting paid a lot of money to speak at these big events, or they have book deals. So yeah, I think there is a bit too much of that goes on.
That's how Rockers started. Were you at the International Enterprise Promotion Convention at all about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago? Well, Tina and I were speaking at it, and we actually looked at the audience that we were speaking at, and it says, they don't really get enterprise, do they? They don't actually realise, Tina's run, my parents ran their own business, and Tina's did as well, and obviously, although she's 20 years younger than me, she has had 20 years of running lots of different businesses. And although I've had the same business partner, Claire Francis, for all the time I've been running my businesses, we have run a lot of different, started and run a lot of different businesses under that same business, if you like. Because I think that's what you're doing all the time, actually. I think you're not just building one business, you're starting up and running lots of businesses as you go along. But that's how the Rockers started, because we realised that they were using the words entrepreneur and enterprise and things, but they weren't really talking about what was happening to all of us that have to start their own business, kind of thing. It's so much tougher, isn't it, than the media are making out, really. We did a Rockers film just before Christmas, and I remember the tapas bar that we use quite regularly in Scarborough. Guy called Steve, who runs it with his wife Elaine, and he was saying, he said, all my mates think I'm earning a fortune now I've got my own business. I've got to buy all the drinks, and I blame the media and government on all that spin on that. When I say people are actually earning average of 12,000 a year or something, and their earnings have gone down 20% in the last 5 years, people think, oh, I'm being negative, I should be like more, but I'm only being realistic to say it's the greatest way of earning your living, running your own business. But the reality is it's bloody tough. It requires a lot of hours and various things, but the great thing is find something that you've got a passion in so that you can put in those hours and kind of thing, and keep learning as you're going, and don't think like one income stream is the only way to do it. Sometimes you might have to take a part-time job to keep your business going. That's the reality.
Yeah, well, that's spot on, and I think it's, like I said at the beginning, I think it's really important that there's someone like you and Tina and the others involved in the Rockers to be speaking the truth and making sure people go into self-employment with their eyes open, so that they don't just believe the hype. They do know what the realities of starting your own business are. So yeah, definitely keep doing what you're doing, Tony. Really appreciate what you're doing. If anyone wants to find out a bit more about you or the Enterprise Rockers and how to get involved, what should they do?
Yeah, well, I think the enterpriserockers.co.uk is a good place to go for our website, but you can also find our groups on Facebook and on LinkedIn, Google+. So, yeah, absolutely, those are all the ways. TonyRobinsonOBE.com. Probably anybody that's interested in all of the facts and generic tips kind of thing, and we've already said, don't take a generic tip as anything other than a starter for 10 kind of thing. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll work in your business, but it might get something. A lot of that information, all the facts on micro-enterprise in the UK and various things, so, and podcasts, that's all on, or I may even put this on, Paul. Yeah, that's all on TonyRobinsonOBE.com, so they can do that as well. And the other thing is that we always want feedback on what would help make your life better. So, you know, remember, you don't have to join the Rockers. You can come in and come out of it. We don't count numbers. If you want any of our service, like you want to trade with other businesses, then you do have to give us your contact details, otherwise we can't promote you. But you don't necessarily need to. But we do need your feedback, because Tina and I and all the head roadies and people like you are willing to put our heads above the parapet to speak on your behalf. We realise that the majority of people can't be in any way controversial because they can't afford to lose a potential customer who didn't agree with their views, if you like. So just think of the Rockers as somewhere where you can anonymously give us information, give us feedback, tell us what would help make. I should say, look at this, Paul. Do you know what that is?
Go on. It's a letter. It's a letter.
It's a letter, and can you see who it's from?
I can't quite make it out. Go on.
Right, it's from HM Treasury.
Ah,
now,
okay.
in all the times that I've been doing budget submissions, Paul, I've done lots and lots and lots of them. That's the first time that HM Treasury has actually written back, thanked us for our submission, and said in the letter that they've put some people on to look at what we've actually said.
All right, excellent.
So Rockers is beginning to attract attention. It is making a difference. To give you an example of that, 2 years ago I did an e-petition, and the really hard things to do. I was kind of quite disappointed until I realised it was in the top 20 of all business e-petitions, and it took me a year to actually get 1,000 signatures, because you've got to put your name of business owners, you've got to put your name on, address, all that kind of thing. Things people don't want to do because they don't trust what's going to happen to their data. This year I started my stop funding the corporate thieves, if you like, looking for any company that is funded by government in any kind of way, either as a supplier or they get apprenticeship funding or whatever they get, that the government actually negotiate with them so that they pay all their suppliers within 30 days, which gets cash flow going right throughout the UK, and they pay their staff a living wage, which helps with consumer spending and all kinds of things, and the survival of those people. So they don't get any more government funding unless they pay in 30 days or whatever. It's 2 months, it's only taken 2 months as against a year to get 1,000 signatures. So that really shows to me that, you know, we are beginning to make a difference. People are watching us, people are listening to us, and we get ridiculed and we get criticised a great deal. But we're not political. We believe that all government, these are issues for all governments, and have been issues for all governments. We just want to make life better for micro enterprise owners, and we do that by trading amongst each other. You know, everybody commits to buying at least 25% of the stuff from other indie businesses. We've got lots of services if people want them, but very few do want them. What is very popular is asking questions on Facebook and LinkedIn groups and getting answers from other business owners. And so it's informal, it's a self-help community, and we will just do everything we can to make life better for them. So if they can just give us feedback as to what will help them the most, we'll just keep on doing it. There you go. Add over.
Brilliant. Okay, yeah, fantastic. Tony Robinson, thank you very much for doing this. I really enjoyed speaking to you, and I'll look forward to continuing to read what else you get up to on your blogs, and hopefully meeting you again in person soon.
Thank you,
okay.
Your Lordship.
Thanks, Tony.
And I'll buy marketing for.
Bye.
Well, bye.